David was an ordinary man in extraordinary circumstances. A middle-class salesman burdened with responsibilities, he was no stranger to long workdays and mounting pressures. But that day felt heavier than most. He had missed his sales target, been reprimanded by his boss, and was facing a pile of unpaid bills. By the time he boarded his usual late-night subway, he was drained, both physically and emotionally. The subway car was mostly empty, save for a few tired faces scattered among the seats. David slumped into a corner, his mind swirling with thoughts of failure and uncertainty. Just as the train started moving, he noticed a peculiar man enter the carriage. The man wasn't dressed for the weather, wearing a light, almost ethereal white coat that seemed to shimmer under the harsh subway lights. He held a small, weathered journal in one hand. The man began approaching passengers one by one, speaking softly and offering the journal. Some ignored him, others glanced at him with suspicion, but a few wrote something in the book before he moved on. Intrigued and slightly unnerved, David watched as the man made his way toward him. When the man reached David, he smiled warmly and held out the journal. "Would you like to write a wish?" he asked, his voice calm yet commanding. David frowned. "A wish? What's the point?" The man's smile deepened. "Sometimes, a wish is all it takes to change the world." Skeptical but curious, David hesitated before taking the journal. Its pages were filled with a variety of wishes, some trivial, others profound. He flipped to a blank page and paused. What did he want? Money? Success? A solution to his problems? Instead, he wrote, "I wish the world had less selfishness." The man nodded approvingly as he took back the journal. "A beautiful wish," he said. "Now, watch what happens." And with that, he moved on, leaving David bewildered. The next morning, David's routine felt oddly different. Strangers held doors open for each other. A street vendor offered a free coffee to a homeless man. At work, his boss, usually curt and impatient, actually asked how David was feeling and listened when he replied. Even traffic on his commute home seemed less chaotic, with drivers waving each other through intersections. David couldn't shake the feeling that his wish had somehow taken effect. But it wasn't just the world around him that had changed. He felt a shift within himself. Inspired by the kindness he was witnessing, David started performing small acts of generosity. He helped a neighbor carry groceries, donated a portion of his meager savings to a local charity, and even forgave a long-standing debt owed by a struggling friend. Days turned into weeks, and David's life began to transform. His renewed positivity and kindness attracted people who valued him, not just for his work, but for who he was. A chance encounter with an old acquaintance led to a job offer at a company where his efforts were truly appreciated. One evening, David boarded the subway again, the memory of the peculiar man still vivid. He looked around the crowded car but saw no sign of him. Yet, in a way, the man was everywhere, in every act of kindness and every smile exchanged between strangers. David realized the man hadn't simply granted a wish, he had sparked a movement, one person at a time. And as David leaned back in his seat, he smiled, knowing he was now part of something far greater than himself.